Good morning, everyone. This is David Koon. It's a beautiful rainy day today in southwest Georgia. Today is the 1st of August in 2018. My brother-in-law's birthday. Happy birthday, Hank. I've had a couple different things on my mind lately about some possible videos that I wanted to touch on, and one of the ones was the awakening, and a couple of things that I've been thinking about is what is the awakening, and I'm sure it's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. My awakening, however, has been going on since I was a child. Actually, one of the first spiritual experiences other than Christianity, and that was always I was more afraid and had more questions than anything else. That just didn't sit right with me. But I can remember as a child, I believe I was in elementary school and possibly somewhere between third and even maybe into middle school, 8th grade. I had an experience, and I tested it. It was with a friend of mine. I lived out in the country in a place in Osceola County, Florida, and a little Indian community that was called Narcoosee. And I had our closest neighbors at that time were, I would say, approximately about a half mile or so away. And I had a childhood friend a couple years younger than me. And the one experience that comes to my mind has to do with, I can't remember the name of it. Is when you're, in my case, I was sleeping, and I would leave my body and travel over, and we were out in the woods, where we lived. It was all country, real thick country. And my buddy Timmy, he was it was in the evening, and it was early evening, somewhere around 9 o'clock, and he was still awake, and I don't remember all the exact details, but I remember coming out of my body as I was sleeping and being very aware of this, and going over the trees and tall pine trees and forests, and going over to a trailer park that was relatively close to where we were at, or where I lived. And I saw him outside, and I saw him doing certain things, and I said, man, this is so real, and it just felt like it's real. So the next day on the bus, our bus, it was about 30 to 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour, I don't remember now, but we would ride on the bus to school. And I happened to mention to him, I said, man, what was you doing last night? And he had told me. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but I saw you last night. I came out of my body while I was sleeping, and I came and I checked you, and I saw, and blah blah. I told him some of the things that he was doing, and he didn't judge it in a negative way. We actually had a talk about it, and I said, somehow the conversation is not 100% clear, but this is what stands out. It went something to the extent of, well, he was going to check it out as well and see. Don't recall anything about him actually experiencing it, but what we did was I said, I'm going to try it again, and tonight I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm going to go and I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to see if it works. And you know what, it actually did, and we had talked about it. Once again, I don't remember all the details. The reason I'm bringing this up is because that was one of the spiritual things that I look back on now, making me understand and making me aware that I was actually already in the awakening process, or I was trying to remember. Amnesia was trying to break through. A couple other little things, was one time on the bus, we were coming around a corner that was, you couldn't see, it's like a suicide corner on the bus. We were on the way home, and there was a dump truck that had flipped over in the road, and it's a 45 miles per hour, and we're talking about a bus full of kids. And I told the bus driver, I said, slow down or stop, whatever I said, because this is what I had seen in my mind, in my mind's eye, whatever you want to call it. And I told her, and sure enough, we came around the corner, and that was it was there. So that was another thing. Of course, there's always been little things that my desire and my hunger to get closer to God, and I always knew, well, there was a purpose. You're here for a reason, and it was always eluded me, but it was always a desire. And then later on, I got into the church and was seeking that way, and became a Pentecostal, and spoke in tongues and was filled with the Holy Spirit, and all those things that's entailed in that belief system. Of course, I found myself very disillusioned with that after a certain point in time. I felt it was so real, but yet it was empty. There was something missing. So as time went on, many different obstacles and such, I have found myself in a physical, mental, emotional depression and extreme. Well, I was just in bad shape. I was lost, very lost, after a lot of traumatic things. So when I was about 50, about 50 years old, I had to walk away from a situation, and I had nothing left in my name. I don't even think I had a vehicle at the time. I had a bicycle and just the clothes on my back, and I was broken mentally and physically and emotionally scarred, and just this world and the experience that I've chosen just about destroyed myself. However, this was all in a process, and sometimes we go through things and we're so hard-headed and we know not to do things, or we have intuitions and feelings that we know we should go a certain direction, and then there are obstacles that come in the way and we make the choices that are wrong. The other thing that had a large part to do with this, and that caused me to be in the situation I was in, which I caused it. I'm not saying it was something else or someone else. I'm the one who created this, and I take full responsibility for that. But there was another subject I'm going to get on, and that's being an empath, and some of the things that I've experienced and have come to know for myself, which I didn't understand, that was causing myself to make wrong decisions and choices. And anyway, coming back to the main topic of this, in my awakening, I found myself here in Southwest Georgia, and I started to look for other things. I knew I was never going to go back to that Pentecostal church. It was like being in and please, people, I'm not putting that down. It served a purpose in my life, and I had some wonderful experiences in that. So I'm not putting that down. So I just want to cover that real quick. But anyway, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. Let me see if I can regroup. I came up here to my sister's, and I started to, once I was completely disillusioned with Christianity and such, I started searching, and I ran across there's some other things that happened, but one of the main things was Sylvia Good, or what was that her name? Sylvia Brown. I don't know why I'm thinking Good. I've got quite a few of her books I'm looking at right now. I started buying those off of eBay and started reading her stuff, and I was opened up to a world that, wow, I was totally blown away by it. And through that process, I learned an awful lot, and it started some of my awakening. And then it proceeded to go on to where eventually I got on YouTube, and I ran into a few people on there. G-Man was one of them, and I can't really recall if it was G-Man where I ran into Naya, Yvonne Ballard, and heard some of the things that she was talking about, and that really increased my awakening, and started making me realize that, hey, actually before that I think there was Lily Korsanova or something like that. I started seeing some of her stuff, but it started making me more and more aware of there's a lot more to who I am than this body and a spirit that may or may die and go to heaven or hell. So during this process of awakening, I've come through a lot of different stages, and that's brought me to the reason why I'm making this video, and that is the awakening and where you're at. There's a lot of people who are so-called awakened, and some of them are very psychic and very aware of their abilities, and then there's others that are where I started out years ago, just desiring and knowing that something wasn't right. And so there's stages in this awakening, and I just want to make sure that I bring across what's been on my heart, and that is that don't judge yourself as being good or bad, or they're better and I'm not, or whatever, for where you are in your awakening. The awakening, there comes a point in time to where, okay, you see in this awakening, or in my awakening, I started to say, wait a minute, I'm a creator God. And I started to believe that, and I started to hear it, and I started to feel right, and I started to say, well, that sounds right to me. But then there was all this hanging on to you, and the things that you were taught, saying, "Oh no, man, that's a bunch of garbage. That's blasphemous." So it took me a little bit to deal with that, and then as my mind and my eyes, my heart started to accept this truth, more truth started coming to me. And in this process, and in my awakening, I have come to the understanding and knowing that this is true. I'm a creator God, and I'm responsible for all the things that I go and do in my life and how I affect others. I'm responsible for my own self and what I do or don't do. There's a point in this awakening that some people who are more awakened may end up being, say, they might lose their patience with people and say, "Oh my God, don't they get it? I just don't understand it." So I just want to bring that. But please try not to do that with people. Be patient and let them go through their process and love them, and because the feelings and all that you put out can affect them in a negative way, and it's not fair to them. And just be aware of that. Don't put people down because let's say you can do this and they can't. And thank God in my awakening and my walking, I don't see much of that at all. Now through my on YouTube and different people that I've run into, and I'm rocking in my little chair if you see movement, I have noticed that happens, and that's a shame. But anyway, in the awakening, there comes a point in time, and this is something that I am at the cusp of. I am just there. It's already happened. I've just got to allow it to manifest, and that's the going from believing and thinking and knowing that you're a creator God and stepping into that aspect of a creator God here in this game or on this earth. And that's the place where I know that it's going to happen soon, and whether it does or doesn't happen today or tomorrow or next week, it's going to happen. And that's the key, I believe, in my awakening, and the point to where I can start and I can become who I am and who I'm supposed to be, or who I want to be. And that is transforming myself from that point of believing, yes, I'm a creator being, and that this is all just a game, and so on and so forth, and walking in that, and allowing this body and this ego and this mind to have that manifest. And yes, as being a creator being, I am all powerful and almighty. If I choose to be a jerk, I can really influence people. If I choose to be a help, I can do that as well. But I am at a point where I am going to be what I came here to be, and I can't wait to walk in that step of being the creator God, and still being under the constraints of this body or skin suit, as someone I respect very much talks about. That's something that's the next step for me, and starting to realize that I'm a lot more of an empath than what I thought I was, or than what I knew I was, and how that affects me, and how that has hindered me, and how that has allowed different things in my life to become different illnesses and emotional immaturities and mental immaturities and so on, to have become manifest in me. And that's something I want to talk about here on one of my next videos. But right now is, please don't judge people for where they are in their awakening. There are different stages, and if you are going through those situations, and I feel that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because there are people out there who are being attacked in their awakening process, or they're beating their own selves up by being in the mind too much, and you need to be out of your mind like me. I'm saying that as a joke. You need to try not to be in your mind so much. Don't beat yourself up. Realize that there are stages, and this is going to happen. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to, when it's supposed to. You're going to be all right. You are okay. You're a lot stronger than what you could ever even imagine, and you're going to be all right. And just continue to seek, and don't beat yourself up so much. Take a deep breath, slow down, and this will happen, and you will be there when the right time. You're not alone in this. None of you are alone. I'm not alone, and I'm so thankful for those that are out there. Anyway, I rambled a lot in this, and a lot of people, or some of you have seen my videos, you realize that I do this, but hopefully the point I was trying to get across, in the spirit of what I was trying to get across, I accomplished. Thank you guys. I love you very much. Later.